Okay, so today we will discuss about the virtual warehouses. Okay, and we will be discussing about the basically how the computing cost will be calculated, how the virtual warehouses works. This entire thing we will be discussing. Okay, now for an example, this account right now is having one virtual warehouse. So if I go to the uh, if I go to the architecture diagram, so there are three layer we have, right, in the Snowflake. Now, in between this three layer, we have a query processing layer, and in that layer, we have we can have one or multiple virtual warehouses for an account. An account can have one or multiple virtual warehouses. Now, virtual warehouses, what is virtual warehouses? As of now, just understand virtual warehouses are the collection of servers. So, inside the virtual warehouse, I can have one or multiple servers. Those servers will be used to process your query or process your data. A data related any activity if you perform on your account, basically you need the virtual warehouses to be considered. Without virtual warehouses, you cannot perform anything here. Like any data related activity, you can't perform. So simple thing, like if I go to the here in this warehouse section, if you go to the warehouse section, and for an example, let's say if I drop the virtual warehouse from here, right now in my account, I don't have any virtual warehouses. So if you don't have any virtual warehouses, and after that, let's say you just write a simple select statement like select star from, uh, let's say any table, if you consider, let's say for an example, just write the query. It will be it will not show you any record, any results. Rather, it will tell you no active warehouse has been selected in the current session. Select an active warehouse with the use warehouse command. So basically it will tell you that you have to select the virtual warehouse, otherwise you cannot see the record set. Not only select, insert, update, delete, then copy statement, these are all whatever data related activity you do, whatever, whenever you are doing something with data, you need these virtual warehouses definitely for creating table, for creating database, for creating schema. In these cases, virtual warehouses are not needed because those are all not data related activity. For an example, if I try to create a database, let's say create database D2, let's say I'm trying to create a database, I will be able to create. There is no issue with that. Inside the database, if I want to create a table, I can create. There is no issue with that. But because those are all DDL statement, whenever we run any data related activity, either select statement or any DML operations, in those cases, I need the virtual warehouses compulsory. Other than that, I cannot perform anything in Snowflake. Virtual warehouses are nothing but the processing component of your account. It will be used to process your data. It will be used to process your data. It is the computing power of your account. And whenever we will be using these virtual warehouses, actually it will be cost you some credits as well. It is something like a example, like let's say you have electricity in your home, right? Now whenever we switch on the light, whenever we switch on the fan or something, like according to that we consume that power, and whatever power we consume, that units gets added to your meter box, or basically to your measurement box and all. And going forward, end of the month, what we do, we just calculate the units whatever has been consumed, and after that we pay the amount or pay the bill according to that consumed units, right? Similarly, here also, this is a kind of virtual machines. And whenever we will write a query, or whenever we will update anything, insert anything, delete anything, or any data related activity we do, we use the virtual warehouses. And how long we using the virtual warehouses, according to that, it will be consuming some credits. Whenever it will consume the credits, that credits will be added to your account at end of the month. Whatever credits you will be consuming, according to that you have to pay your bill. That is what the virtual warehouses charges, or that is what we called as a computing charges. Okay. Now today we will understand how the virtual warehouses will be created, how basically we will be using the virtual warehouse, and how the cost will be calculated. So let's go to the, this is the admin section. We'll go to the admin section. We'll go to the warehouse section, and we'll click on the plus warehouse sign. Here, a lot of things we will discuss. So first I have to provide the name of the virtual warehouse. Any name you can provide, XYZ, ABCD, or if you want to maintain any standard, like a lot of standard name projects can write. So those name you can write. For example, I'm writing here simple W1. After that, you have two option here. One is type, one is size. So we will understand first. Basically, there is a two type of type is available. One is standard type of virtual warehouse. Another one is Snowpark optimized virtual warehouse. 90% cases we use the standard type of virtual warehouses. The team or the people who needs basically who writes basically the data related activity or data queries, which is actually needs the larger memory size and cache, or basically you can call it as a memory incentive operations. Though those cases we use the Snowpark optimized warehouses. So most of the cases we will be using the standard, because it is cheap also, and because Snowpark optimized virtual warehouses are something which will be giving you big size of warehouses. That means simple thing, like they will be giving you, like in case of standard, if you see the, if you can see, if I choose standard, our size starts from the X small, small, medium, like that. But if I choose the also you see here medium size is 4 credits, large is 8 credits, right? Or but if you choose the Snowpark optimized, you can see here small, X small, those options are not there. Directly medium it is there, and also the credits consumption is high. So that is what you have to remember, that in case of Snowpark optimized, more number of servers will be there inside the virtual warehouses. You will be able to understand it. So let's start with the, so basically let's say I'm choosing the standard type, because Snowpark optimized virtual warehouses we will be choosing in those cases when we are writing memory incentive queries or memory incentive data related activities, like which needs the, which is the complex scenarios, or maybe which needs the basically more space to execute the queries and all. So in those cases we use the Snowpark optimized, but as well as it will be charge you more power as well. So we'll understand. So for an example, let's say I chosen here standard edition, sorry, standard type, and in the size, then you will be getting from the X small. For an example, you can see X small, small, medium, large, X large, 2X large, 3X, 4X, 5X. Like that, you have these options available. Now you can see whenever you have chosen, like if you choose the X small, it will be consuming 1 credit per hour. That means you, if you, let's say you have created one X small size of virtual warehouse, and you use that virtual warehouse for 1 hour, it will be consuming only 1 credit. Similarly, if you go to the bigger version, let's say you chosen the small size of virtual warehouse and you use that virtual warehouse for an hour, it will be giving you, or it will be consuming 2 credits. Similarly, if you go one step ahead, like a medium size of virtual warehouse, you use that virtual warehouse for 1 hour, it will be consuming 4 credits. Okay. Similarly, if you go to the large, it will be consuming 8 credits. Like, and you can see it just doubling, like 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32 to 64, like that. It is just double of the previous. Okay. So now the question is, in when we will be using the X small, and why we will be using the X small, and why we will be using the medium. So simple thing, if you increase the size of the virtual warehouse, basically, if you increase the size of the virtual warehouse, then your query performance will be speed up. Simple thing. So basically, when we increase the size of the virtual warehouse, whenever we are writing much more complex queries, or simple thing, like whenever the complexity of the query will be increased, or complexity of the query will be increased. Similarly, to get the better performance, we should increase the size of the virtual warehouse as well. So you can see here, selecting a larger warehouse may increase the performance and speed. However, they can cost more credits as well, because medium size of virtual warehouse per hour 4 credits will be consuming. Small size of virtual warehouse per hour 2 credits will be consuming. So you can see, if you increase the size, the credit consumption also will be increased. Now, to understand this thing in a better way, let's say for an example, any question? Okay. So for an example, let's say I have taken here 3 size of virtual warehouse. Let's say X small, small, medium. Okay. Now X small size of virtual warehouse will consume 1 credit per hour. So hour means 60 minutes. I have taken in a minutes. So 1 credit per hour means 1 credit per 60 minutes. Then how much it will consume for 1 minute? So you can see 1 divided by 60. Because remember one thing, virtual warehouses consumption, virtual warehouse consume per second wise charges. Okay. So 1 hour, 1 credits per hour it will consume. Now by using this parameter, Snowflake will be calculating based on your utilization. Okay. So based on your utilization, Snowflake will be calculate the consumption. For an example, the parameter is 1 credit per hour. Now, for 1 minute, it will be consuming this much. For 10 minutes, it will be consuming this much. 10 minutes is nothing but multiply by 1 minute, multiply by 10 is 10 minutes. Similarly, for 45 minutes, this one, like that. In case of small, 2 credits per hour. Then for 1 minute, this one divided by this one. So, this is the for 1 minute. Similarly, for 10 minutes, for 40 minutes, like that, we can calculate. Now remember one thing. Let's say in your room you have the electricity switch, right? So basically, what we do, let's say I want to switch on my light. So whenever I will switch on my light will be basically it will start consuming the power, and whenever I switch off the light, it will not consume any power, right? So here also two option is there. In case of virtual warehouses, also two options are there. One is a virtual warehouse can be in a started mode, and also it can be in a suspended mode. Whenever your virtual warehouses is in started mode, whenever your virtual warehouses is in started mode, whenever your virtual warehouses is in started mode, it will be consuming credits. Okay. Whenever your virtual warehouses is in started mode, it will be consuming credits. This is kind of switch on mode. Okay. Started mode means switch on mode, and whenever they are in the suspended mode, they will not consume credits. Okay. Now let's say your virtual warehouses was in suspended mode, that means switch off mode. Whenever I started the virtual warehouse, remember always, it will definitely charge you 1 minute charges. What does it mean? Let's say At 8 o'clock, I started my virtual warehouse. After 10 seconds, I suspended it. That means 8 o'clock I started. After 10 seconds, I switched off. That means I suspended the virtual warehouse. So that means I used only for 10 seconds, but that doesn't mean it will charge you 10-second price. No, it will charge you 1 minute charges. Minimum 1 minute charges, it will definitely charge you. Whenever you started, you have to consume 1 minute charges. Now, let's say after 10 seconds, if I suspend the virtual warehouse, it will minimum charge you 1 minute charges. That you have to remember. Even after 50 seconds also, if you suspend, still it will charge you 1 minute charges. Okay, that you have to remember. Second thing, let's say I use the virtual warehouses for total 5 minutes 2 seconds. For an example, I use the virtual warehouses total 5 minutes 2 seconds. Now, in this case, it will exactly bill you for 5 minutes 2 seconds because I did not suspended it within 1 minute. It is continuously running for 5 minutes 2 seconds. After that, the virtual warehouse gone suspended. So basically, it will charge you for 5 minutes 2 seconds only. For an example, let's say for 5 minutes, how much charges? Let's say if I consider the medium size of virtual warehouse, then this is what the basically your 1 minute charges, right? Now you can see for 5 minutes, this one multiply by 5. So this is coming as a 5 minute charges, and this one is the basically 2 second charges. Before that, we will find out per second charges. You can see 4 is the credit that it is consuming per hour. That means 4 divided by 3600 seconds. Per hour means 3600 seconds. So 4 divided by 3600 seconds means this credits will be calculated per second. Then 2 second, this is multiplied by 2 is this one. So now this total is about 5 minute 2 second charges. This one will be calculated. This credits will be added to this credits will be consumed by the virtual warehouse if it consumes 5 minute 2 seconds. Okay. Now remember one thing, if your virtual warehouse is in started mode and you are not using the virtual warehouse, still it will consume credits. Still it will consume credit. It is exactly same. Like let's say you have switched on your light in your home, but you are not in your home. So that doesn't mean that it will not consume power, right? Definitely it will consume power. Either you are there in your home or you are utilizing it or not, that doesn't matter. You switched on the electricity means it will consume the power. Similarly here also, if you have started your virtual warehouses and you are not using that virtual warehouse for running any query, but still it will be consuming credits. Until and unless you are moving it to suspended mode, definitely it will be consuming credits. Okay. So that you have to remember. And one more thing, let's say my virtual warehouses was in X small size. Now I just increase the size to small, or I increase the size to medium, or I increase the size to the larger one, whatever options are there in this box. So it was the initially, let's say I created X small size of virtual warehouse. After some time I came here and I increased the size to large. This process we call as a scale up. This process we call as a scale up. Okay. Scale up is the process by which we increase the size of the virtual warehouse. Through increasing the size of the virtual warehouse, we call it as a scale up, and decreasing the size of the virtual warehouse, we call it as a scale down. Okay. Now you have the size created with medium. After some time you came here and you made it to X small. So you decrease the size. So decreasing the size is called as a scale down. Increasing the size is called as a scale up. Scale up, scale down is completely manual process. It is not something that we do with the automated way, because whatever basically the size increasing, decreasing is completely manual process. You have to, whenever you need the larger size, you have to go with that. Whenever you don't need the larger size, you have to go with the smaller one. This is the all about size. Okay. Now, for an example, why it is written as a 1 credit, why it is written as a 2 credit, why it is written as a 4 credit, why it is written as a 8 credit? Because if I create a x small size of virtual warehouse, in between that virtual warehouse, within that virtual warehouse, there will be only one servers available, one processing server. Similarly, if you create a small size of virtual warehouse, there will be two servers. If you create medium size of virtual warehouse, there will be four servers. If you create large size of virtual warehouse, there will be eight servers. So your credits is nothing but the equivalent to the servers, equivalent to the number of servers. How many servers will be there inside the virtual warehouse? Based on that, the credits will be calculated. For an example, if I create the 5x large size of virtual warehouse, that will be having 256 servers inside that virtual warehouse. Okay. So that is what. Now, if you create the similar way, if you create the Snowpipe optimized, earlier cases, medium warehouse was having 4 servers. Now it will be having 6 servers inside it, and it will be consume more powers as well. Okay. So that is the reason it says that whenever we are doing any larger memory incentive activities, we should choose the Snowpark optimize. Otherwise, most of the cases we will be choosing the standard option only. Now you can create the X small size of virtual warehouse. You can create the small, you can create the medium according to your utilization. If any query is getting longer time to run with the X small size, you can go one step ahead and you can start using small, and you can check that how much time it is taking. If that time, whatever it is taking, is the you are satisfied with that time, then you can stick into this small. Otherwise, if still you are getting longer time, then still you can go one step ahead to the medium, and you can check that how much time it is taking. Now, if you are satisfied, then you can stick into it. Like that, you have to check your queries, like which queries are taking longer time and all. So for an example, let's say I am choosing the medium size of virtual warehouse. Now, medium size of virtual warehouse means it will be, first of all, it will be consuming 4 credits per hour. And also from this medium, I can understand that this virtual warehouse will be having 4 servers inside it. This virtual warehouse will be having 4 servers inside it. So remember this thing. Okay. Let's choose the medium one. After that, we have an option called advanced option. So we'll click on it. Here are two options are there initially. One is auto resume, auto suspend. As I told you, because whenever the virtual warehouse is started, either it is executing any query or not, basically it will be consuming your credits. To protect that one, we can set up a auto suspend option. Let's say I made it that after 5 minutes of inactivity, if the virtual warehouses are not being used and they are inactive for continuously 5 minutes, then I want my virtual warehouses will be automatically suspended to save my cost. Okay. You not only 5 minutes, you can give 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever, but you have to write the figure in minutes, 60 minutes, whatever you want. So that you can mention here, and after that much of minutes, you suspend your virtual warehouse automatically. Okay. Similarly, if whenever the virtual warehouses is in suspended mode, it can be automatically resumed whenever we fired any query. If I don't take this one, basically every time we, before running the query, we have to come here manually, we have to resume it. So we made it auto resume because whenever the virtual warehouses will be in a suspended mode, and at that time, if I fire a query, it will be automatically resume the virtual warehouse and it will be using that. So that's the reason this auto resume option has been ticked. Now, in this case, this is what we call single cluster virtual warehouse. Now we have another option called multi-cluster virtual warehouse option. What does it mean? If I tick on this, so your virtual warehouse will become multi-cluster. If I don't tick on this virtual warehouse is in single cluster. Single cluster is nothing but, so simple thing you can understand, there will be one rack. On that rack, you will be having 4 servers right now. Right now, because why 4 servers I am telling? Because I created a medium size of virtual warehouse which will be having 4 servers inside it. That's the reason inside the virtual warehouse there will be one rack, and on that rack it will be having 4 servers. Okay, that is what the virtual warehouse will contain. Okay, it's kind of, let's say, if you see here, let's say it will be looks like this way. Let's say this is the virtual warehouse. If you create a single cluster, then this is what your virtual warehouse will be. Okay, this is what your virtual warehouse will be. And in between the virtual warehouse, you will be having 1, 2, 3, 4. Only one cluster will be there. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 servers will be there. This will be your virtual warehouse. Okay. And this is what we call this. If this is the situation, then this is what we call single cluster virtual warehouse. Okay. Now here we have the option called multi-cluster virtual warehouse. Now if I tick on this multi-cluster virtual warehouse option, then there will be getting three things. One is minimum cluster, one is maximum cluster, one is scaling policy. For an example, minimum cluster you can choose till 10, maximum cluster also similar way you can choose till 10, like that. Let's say maximum cluster I have chosen 3. What does it mean? That means total 3 clusters will be created. Now this is the example. Now earlier I told you this is the single cluster warehouse. Now I created 3 cluster. So that means this will be my virtual warehouse. So this boundary is the virtual warehouse. Let's say this is the total as a virtual warehouse. In between I will be having 3 clusters. Each clusters will be having 4 servers. Why? Because the virtual warehouse size is medium. If I would have created one with the large size, and that will be 8 credits, that means 8 servers. So here each clusters will have it 8 servers. Now it is having 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 servers. Now if we have created the size with 8, then it will be having 8 servers in each clusters. That is what the clusters. Okay, now why we use the clusters, that I'll explain you. So for an example, there is a minimum cluster 1, maximum cluster 3. I consider it as a minimum cluster 1, maximum cluster 3. What does it mean? This situation, if your minimum cluster and maximum cluster is different, that means minimum cluster is different number, maximum cluster is different number. This is what we called auto scale mode. This is what we called auto scale mode. What is that auto scale mode? I'll tell you a simple example. Let's say you are in your apartment, you have 3 power backup. Okay. In your apartment, you have 3 power backup. Why I am saying 3 power backup? Because here also I have taken maximum clusters number is 3. Whatever the maximum cluster number I will be choosing, that many clusters will be created inside the virtual warehouse. If I choose here maximum cluster as a 6, so you have to remember that inside the virtual warehouse, right now 3 clusters are there, 3 more clusters will be created. So total 6 clusters will be there. So whatever maximum clusters number I will choose, total number of clusters will be the equivalent to the maximum clusters. Okay. Now that's the reason. For an example, I have taken maximum cluster as a 3. What does it mean? Then what is the minimum cluster? So to understand this, let's say you have 3 power backup in your apartment. Now someday your apartment is completely, basically your power is gone. No power is there in your apartment. Some problem happened and no power is there. Now as an admin department, what is your responsibility? You will be starting this power backup, and your all the apartments will be getting the power supply. That is what you will be doing. Now here, let's say first of all I started first power backup. Initially I started first power backup. Whenever I will start the first power backup, it will supply the electricity. Then all the apartment will get the electricity, and it will consume, according to that it will consume the fuel as well. Now whenever I started my first power backup, then remaining 2 power backups are basically switched off. They are not using. So because they are not using, at the same time they are not charging you anything also. That means they are not consuming any fuel also, but they are in a stop mode. Now first power backup only it is supplying the electricity. Now let's say by using the first power backup, all the rooms are not getting proper electricity. So now they complain. Now what you have to do? you have to start your second one because they need more power. Whenever you started the second one, basically what it will happen, the second one also will start supplying the power. Now at this position, you have two power backup running. Second one started based on your requirement. It is not like as it is, it started. Second one started based on your requirement. Okay. Now, whenever it started consuming the power, fuel as well. So right now, two power backup is running and all the power backups are consuming fuel. Now, let's say by first one, second one also, all the apartments are not getting proper electricity. Now, what you did, you started your third power backup also. So whenever third power backup you started, basically it also started supplying electricity at the same time. It is consuming credits as well. Sorry, it is consuming fuel as well. So now all the three power backups started and they started consuming fuels. Now let's say in your apartment some blocks got electricity. Okay. Let's say there was a 3 block A, B, C in your apartment. Now A block is getting supplied by power backup 1. B block is getting supplied by power backup 2. C block is getting supplied by power backup 3. Now for an example, let's say your C block got electricity. Their problem is resolved. So now what you will do, you will be stopping your third power backup, right? Because now it is not in use because it is supplying the power backup to C block. Now C block got the electricity, so I stop that one. Similarly, whenever B block also gets the electricity problem resolved, I stop the second one also. And whenever the A block is got problem resolved, I stop the first one also. This is what we called auto scale mode. Whenever we need, I am adding one more power backup. This is exactly same happening here also. So minimum cluster will be defining whenever a virtual warehouse will be started, how many clusters will be activated. So for an example, if I write has minimum cluster as in 1 and maximum cluster 3 means total 3 clusters will be created. In between, first clusters will be activated and remaining 2s are inactivated. Whenever first clusters will be activated, then it will be consuming 4 credits per hour based charges as well. It will be consuming 4 credits per hour based charges as well. And because these two are inactivated, they will not charge you anything right now. So for an example, whenever the cluster 1 is right now, if your virtual warehouses is started, means if you have chosen the minimum cluster number is 1, so that means your minimum clusters, that means your cluster 1 will be activated. Your cluster 1 will be activated and remaining 2 will be inactivated. Okay. Now let's say you have chosen your minimum cluster as a 2. Minimum cluster as a 2. So in that case, what will happen? Whenever you will start your virtual warehouse, your 2 clusters will be activated. 1 will be inactivated. Whenever 2 clusters are activated, definitely this cluster also will charge you 4 credits per hour based charges. Now, whenever 2 clusters will be activated, actually you will be consuming 8 credits per hour based charges. But remember, your 2 clusters are activated means basically they can supply you more power, more computing power, right? They can handle more number of queries, more number of users, right? So that is the reason. If I mention 2 clusters as a minimum cluster, then both the cluster at the starting mode itself, both the clusters will be activated. Like let's say I have 3 power backup, in between 2 power backup I started initially itself. So that is what. Okay. And let's say you have mentioned here basically 3 power backup, minimum cluster as a 3. If you mention, this is what we call maximized mode. This is what we called maximized mode. What does mean by maximized mode? Maximized mode means initially whenever I started, all my power backups, all my clusters will be activated. All my clusters will be activated and all the clusters will be charging you 4 credits per hour based charges. So now this is something like you have 3 power backup, all the 3 power backup I started. at a time, not one by one, at a time. That is what we call basically maximize mode. In that maximize mode cases, so there are two situations. One is auto scale mode. Auto scale mode should be like your minimum cluster will be different, maximum cluster will be different. That is what we call auto scale mode. And whenever minimum clusters and maximum clusters both are same, that is what we call maximize mode. Okay, that is what we call maximize mode. Okay, now for an example, let's say I have chosen minimum cluster as in 1 and maximum cluster as in 3. So that means total 3 clusters will be there and first clusters will be initially activated whenever I started the virtual warehouses. Okay. Now let's say for an example, somebody has executed the SQL 1. This SQL 1 can be anything. Like it can be query, it can be select, it can be insert, update, delete, whatever it is. Let's say somebody has executed SQL 1. Now SQL 1 has been assigned here for execution. Okay, let's say at the same time somebody has executed SQL 2. SQL 2 has been assigned here for execution. This is just for an example purpose to understand the concurrency control here. So let's say somebody has executed SQL 3. That SQL 3 has been assigned here. Let's say somebody has executed SQL 4 and that SQL 4 has been assigned here. Remember this thing, like let's say in your project you are multiple users are using these virtual warehouses and all the users are hitting the query at the same time. That means concurrent users are running. That means at the same time multiple users are running the query and all queries are hitting this virtual warehouse for the execution. If that is the case, let's say these 4 queries are being assigned with this cluster 1. Right now your cluster 1 is completely busy. They are not able to take any more queries for execution. This is completely busy. Right now this cluster is completely busy. If any more queries comes in your queue, basically that query will not be able to assign in this cluster 1. Okay, now let's say SQL 5. At this position somebody has executed another query called SQL 5. Now this SQL 5 can't be assigned here. So if you don't have the multi-cluster situation, and for an example you have single cluster virtual warehouse, in that case this SQL 5 has to be in a waiting state until and unless this cluster is become free. But we have multi-cluster option, and there is a scaling policy. This scaling policy, 2 type of scaling policy is there. One is standard, one is economy. What is standard scaling policy and what is economy scaling policy? For an example, let's say if I chosen the standard scaling policy, this SQL 5, that means any query which is encountered and it is not able to assign with the running cluster, then what Snowflake will do, Snowflake will make this cluster activated. Snowflake will make this cluster activate, and or it will make this cluster it will make this cluster active, and this SQL 5 will be assigned here in this cluster, and this cluster also will start consuming 4 credits per hour based charges. Okay, this SQL 5 SQL 5 will be basically assigned here in this cluster 2, and it will also consume the 4 credits. It will also consume, this cluster also start consuming 4 credits per hour based charge if you chosen the standard scaling policy. Now in case of economy scaling policy, if you have chosen the economy scaling policy, then it will not directly assign this query here in this cluster. Again, I am repeating, if you have chosen the standard scaling policy, if there is any queued query is there, it will be immediately move this query to the next available cluster. If it is not activated, it will make it active, and this query will go to the next available cluster, so that the performance should not be impacted. The query should not be in a queue state. It should be always in a running state, and that's the reason this query will be assigned to the cluster 2. and whenever it will be assigned here in the cluster 2, it will start consuming 4 credits per hour based charges as well. Now, if you have chosen the economy policy, then this query will not be assigned here. This query will not be assigned here, and this cluster will not be activated immediately. What it will do, it will wait for the basically if you have chosen the economy policy, Snowflake will be keep on examining the cluster 1, that whether the cluster 1 will be able to take this query within next 6 minutes or not. From the time the query has been encountered in the system, in next 6 minutes, whether the cluster 1 will be able to take this query for execution within next 6 minutes or not. Or simple word, if I say my first clusters will be busy for at least 6 minutes or not. If the cluster 1 will be busy for next 6 minutes, then this query will be assigning here. If the cluster will not be busy for next 6 minutes, then this query will be assigned here only whenever the cluster 1 will be completes any of the transaction. For an example, Snowflake analyzes the cluster 1 and it found that within 2 minutes the cluster will be completes its execution, any of the execution, and this query can be taken here. In that situation, this query will not be assigned here. A new cluster will not be activated, and a new cluster will not be started consuming credits. And that is the reason economy scaling policy may be impacted the performance little bit, but at the same time it will be basically save your cost as well. Because parallel issue.
Yeah, Amit, I have a question over here.
Tell me.
So this is like happening everywhere, am I right? Is it like 2 minutes is a big amount of a time in a first cluster, or is it like we have to, like for cost saving, the systems are configured in that way?
It is a cost saving system. 2 minutes is definitely not big, but the same time you have to understand, like, you are multiple users are running the queries. Okay, multiple users are running the queries, and every day 2 minute means 30 days means 60 minutes, right? And if it is 60 minutes, and if you have per credits charges is, for an example, 4 USD, then if for, let's say, per day 2 minutes extra you are paying. So for an example, let's say if I consider this is the charges as a medium, so it is per minute is this one. So 2 minute is to multiply by this one. So this is the 2 minute charges. Now every day I don't take 2 minutes. Definitely it will be extra, but still I am taking minimum one only. For one query only I am charging 2 minutes, means if 30 days with 2 minute extra, if I calculate, so total 4 minutes charges. Now if you have the per credit charges is 5 USD, then 20 USD is getting extra cost by you. Now this is, I am talking about if only 2 minutes is the matter. Now definitely it will be not the 2 minutes is the matter, like multiple queries are running, it will be always clusters and warehouses will be busy. So instead of 2 minutes, if it is 20 minutes also in a day, then per minute, if it is, this is the charges, then 20 multiply by this. So that means this of the so per minute is this one, this credits, then 20 minutes this credits. And if it is a 5 USD per minute per credit charges, then definitely you can think what I'm doing it here. Sorry. So per minute is this charges, then you have to calculate for 20 minutes, and you can think about the 20 minutes multiply by these charges. So it will be more, right? So that is the reason. So not only the matter of 2 minutes, you have to calculate as a whole for the day, for a particular day. Now, to save the cost, basically they have introduced the economy policy. Economy policy, always we try to use the minimum number of clusters. It will always try to complete your execution by already started clusters. It will think twice before starting a new one. That is the main policy here. Okay, so economy policy definitely will be saving the cost. At the same time, it will impact your performance as well. That's fair.
But if it is a less users, then it will save a lot of money instead of using the whole cluster box.
Definitely. Because standard policy will not think anything. Standard policy will assign any new query is coming. If this cluster is busy, immediately this one. If any, immediately this one. Like that, it will be keep on starting. Okay. And that is the reason because started clusters will be charge you something. So that is what. And at the same time, you have to remember whenever Snowflake started the clusters, so this starting the clusters one by one will be completely automated process, and this is what we called scale out. Okay, you have any question?
Yeah, I just want to. Do we have any like document on this one, like how the charges are been calculated, and if you have like from Snowflake or either you have any document, that will be really helpful.
How the charges is getting calculated, that whatever I am telling you, according to that only the charges will be calculated. uh, in Snowflake community documents, you can go to the Google and you can write the virtual warehouses. There you will get the details in the Google. But I will be having a PPT so that you can that I can share with you guys. But this PPT will be telling you the related to about the charges. Like this is the standard economy scaling policies difference and also I have written. So I'll share this one. So that's not an issue. But charges will be calculated like this way only. So
Yeah,
if
but
you
I'm actually looking with the numbers, like what the numbers of charges which you explain in the Excel. Na? If you have a proper documentation on that one, that will be really helpful. Or you can just revisit this page, and if you can share that one also, that is fine.
okay, I'll share it. And one more thing you just understand here. So I'll tell you how the charges will be calculated. So that is what we're discussing. So let's say this is the scale out. Whenever a new clusters will be added to your virtual warehouse activating, so that is what we call scale out. And whenever the virtual warehouse is, whenever the clusters will not be in a use, Snowflake will be automatically suspended also. That means inactivated also. So that is what we call scale in. So scale out, scale in. Scale out is nothing but the increasing the number of clusters, and scale in is nothing but decreasing the number of clusters. Okay. Now do this assignment. So okay, for an example, before doing it, so I'm just telling you. Let's say for an example, this on a whole day, this cluster has used 2 hours 30 minutes. For an example. Similarly, for an whole day, this clusters has used, let's say, 1 hour 45 minutes as a whole. And let's say this clusters has used 15 minutes as a whole. Okay. Let's say the entire day, these three clusters has used like this way. One is 2.5 hours. Another one is 1.45 hours. Another one is 15 minutes. Okay. Now, how I will calculate the credits? First of all, what is the size of the virtual warehouse? 4. So that means it will consume 4 credits per hour based charges. This one also, this one also, this one also. Okay. Now let's say first cluster can use 2 hour 30 minutes, right? So 2 hour 30 minutes means total 120 plus 13. This one is 150 minutes, right? This one,
Yes, yes,
second cluster is 60 plus 45 minutes, 105 minutes. and third cluster is 15 minutes, right? Now 4 credits per hour, so that means 4 divided by 60. This is per minute charges, that means per minute credits. So for 150,
we can combine all the minutes together, am I right? Is it the same thing? Because they're gonna charge minimum 4 credits for each hour.
hold on, let me finish, hold on. So 150 minutes, so how much for 150 minutes? 10 credits, right? So this is the per minute credits for 150 minutes, 10 credits, right? How much for 105 minutes? This is the credit multiplied by 105. This much of credits, right? And how much for 15 minutes? This much of credits multiplied by 15 minutes. So this is the total credits consumption. 10 plus 7, 17, 17 plus 1, 18, 18 credits, right? This is how your credits will be calculated. Now, what is your per credits price? You can go to snowflake.com/pricing page. Select your region. For an example, let's say select your region, select your cloud, and you can come down. And based on your edition, if you have chosen enterprise edition, 3.90 per credit charges. If you have chosen business critical, 5.20 per credit charges. So for an example, let's say 5.20, if it is per credit charges, then total 18 credits multiplied by 5.20. So this much of USD you have to pay for 18 credits. So this is how your cost gets calculated. Now for an example, let's say in the page number 22 in this PPT, I have a question. So let's say a medium size of warehouse runs in auto scale mode for 3 hours. With a resize from medium to large. With a resize from medium to large. Medium was 4 servers per cluster, large was 8 servers per cluster. Warehouse is resized from medium to large at 1.5 hours. That means, simple thing, total 3 hours. So let's say 30 minute, 30 minute, 30 minute, 30 minute, 30 minute, 30 minute. So if I break this total 3 hours in 30 minutes, so that means this is the 1 hour, this is the second hour, and this is the third hour, right? Now it is saying after 1.5 hour, the cluster, the warehouse got resized. That means first 1.5 hours it has used as, if I first 1.5 hour it has used as a medium size, and second 1.5 hour it has used as a large size. So it started with the large size here and it started with the medium size here. Okay. Now in this case it is saying cluster 1 runs continuously. That means cluster 1 runs continuously. Continuously means all the 3 hours cluster 1 executed. Then how much the cluster 1's total consumption will be? Second thing, cluster 2 runs for the second and third hour. Cluster 2 runs for second and third hour, so this much of time. And cluster 3 runs only for the 15 minutes of the third hour. 15 minutes of the third hour. Now you have to tell what is the total number of credits they have consumed. So if the cluster 1 runs continuously, so simple thing, if this is the per minute charges, then how much it will charge for 30 minutes? So simple thing, 30 multiply by this one, 2. Definitely this one also for 2, this one also for 2, right? In this position, it got resized to 8. Now, whenever it resized to 8, then 1 minute charges got increased, right? Now it will be 8 divided by 60 because the size is 8. 8 credits per hour. So per minute, this much of credits. So now for 30 minutes, this is multiplied by 30, this much. Similarly, this will also be 4. This will also be 4. Now in case of cluster 2 used only for the second and third hour. First hour, the cluster 2 was off. So definitely cluster 2 also will be charging you same way 2, 4, 4, 4. Right? Similarly, cluster 3 executed completely, it was off. Last 30 minutes, 15 minutes it has used. So at that last 30 minutes, it was sized with the 8. So this is the per minute charges. So for 15 minutes, so 15 multiplied by this. 15 multiplied by this. So 2 credits. Now do the calculation. 2, 2, 4, 6. 6, 10, 14, 18. So it will be 18 credits. This is 12, 14. This is 14 credits. And this is 2 credits. So total how much credits? 18 plus 4, 32, 34 credits. Total 34 credits will be calculated. This is how we credits calculation done. Got it?
Got it. Yeah.
Okay. So now I will be creating the warehouse here, and once the warehouse is started, you can see first clusters is activated. Now you can go to the project, you can go to the SQL, you can write, you can select the virtual warehouse, you can click on it, execute. You will be able to see the record set. This is how it works. This is how your entire warehouse process. Okay, so you can see this warehouse is in started mode and it has been used. Clear? Fine. Fine. So time up. So that's all for today's session. Any question, any doubt, any queries? Okay. So we'll join again tomorrow and we'll continue. Okay. So tomorrow we will tomorrow I'll do with the cache. Cluster key is done for you, right? Cluster key done, reclustering done, micro partition done, roles done, table database done, virtual warehouse done. Tomorrow I'll show you cache and also we'll talk about the stages. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you all.
The meeting has ended. Thank you for joining. Goodbye.